Hello, my name is Oliver, 32 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado. Tonight I'm sitting here in my small apartment looking out the window where the city lights flicker like lost stars. There's always something strangely beautiful about Denver at night, both cold and warm, as if it's whispering something I've never quite understood. Maybe that's why I cherish moments like these, when everything is still and it's just me and my thoughts. But tonight, I don't just want to gaze out there. I want to tell you my story. A story of an ordinary man living a life that's not entirely ordinary, and about the wounds I've carried since childhood, wounds that still smolder in my heart. I'm a software engineer working at a tech company in downtown Denver. My job isn't glamorous, but it's enough to make me proud. I write code, fix bugs, and sometimes spend hours solving a problem that only the computer and I understand. I love this work, not just because it pays the bills, but because it gives me a sense of control, something I rarely had growing up. I was born and raised in a quiet suburb of Denver, in a 2-story house with a white picket fence and a small garden my mother used to tend lovingly. My family was the quintessential American middle-class household. My dad worked at a bank. My mom was an elementary school teacher, and my younger brother Nathan and I were 2 kids raised with dreams and expectations placed on our shoulders. But if you think this is a warm family story filled with laughter-filled dinners and loving hugs, you're mistaken. My life was never that simple. From a young age, I knew I wasn't the center of attention in our family. No, that spot was always reserved for Nathan. My brother, 3 years younger than me, was the golden child of our parents. Nathan had golden blonde hair, sparkling blue eyes, and a smile that could melt anyone's heart. He was the kind of person who could walk into a room and instantly draw every eye. And me? I was the quiet kid with messy brown hair and thick glasses. I wasn't good at standing out, but I was good at working hard, studying diligently, doing chores, and always trying to make my parents proud. But somehow, it was never enough. I remember my 8th birthday. My mom had promised to throw a small party just with a few close friends and a chocolate cake, my favorite. I was thrilled for weeks, counting down the days on the wall calendar. But on the day of, Nathan caught a cold. It was just a mild one, but my mom canceled my party to spend the entire day tending to him. "Oliver, you're a big boy, you understand, don't you?" she said, her eyes full of guilt but not enough to change anything. I nodded, swallowing the disappointment that weighed heavy in my chest. That night at dinner, I got a small slice of cake, while Nathan, despite being sick, got a larger piece because Mom said he needed to cheer up. I sat there, staring at my slice, wondering if I just wasn't important enough to be noticed. Moments like that weren't one-offs. Birthdays, Christmases, or any occasion that was supposed to be mine, Nathan always found a way to steal the spotlight. Once I won first place in a school science fair with a volcano model I'd spent weeks perfecting. I brought the tiny trophy home thinking my parents would be proud, but when I walked through the door, they were busy helping Nathan rehearse for a school play audition. "Congratulations, Oliver," my dad said, but his eyes stayed glued to Nathan's script. "Put the trophy on the table. I'll look at it later." That later never came. I don't want you to think I resent Nathan. Honestly, he's my little brother and I love him even if that love is sometimes tinged with frustration. Nathan isn't a bad person, he just grew up in a world where everything was handed to him. He didn't have to try too hard because our parents were always there clearing the path for him. Me? I learned to stand on my own early on. Another memory I can't shake is the summer when I was 15. I was selected for a science camp in Boulder, a rare opportunity to learn about programming, the passion that would later define my career. I spent months convincing my parents, writing essays, and saving money from mowing neighbors' lawns to cover part of the cost. Finally, they agreed. But just days before the camp was set to start, Nathan announced he wanted to attend an expensive basketball clinic. "He has potential, Oliver," my mom said, her voice brimming with excitement. "We need to invest in Nathan." And just like that, the money set aside for my camp was redirected to Nathan's clinic. I never made it to Boulder. Instead, I spent the summer fixing old bikes in the garage, trying not to let tears fall on the dusty tires. You might think I got used to it, that I learned to accept it. But no. Each time a small piece of my heart broke. I started wondering if I'd done something wrong, if I wasn't good enough to be loved like Nathan was. I tried harder, studied better, behaved better, sacrificed more, but it never seemed to be enough. I became the understanding older brother, the one who always gave in, always put the family's needs above my own. But inside, I felt like a shadow, faint and unseen. As I grew older, the unfairness became even more glaring. I remember the day I got my acceptance letter from the University of Colorado for a software engineering program. It was one of the happiest moments of my life. I rushed home, clutching the letter, imagining my parents hugging me and saying they were proud. But when I told them, my dad just nodded and my mom looked at me with worry. "Oliver, we don't have enough money for tuition," she said, her voice heavy. "You know the family's finances are tight." I was stunned. I knew we weren't rich, but I'd always thought they'd saved something for my education like they'd promised. I nodded, swallowing the disappointment, and started searching for scholarships, part-time jobs, anything to make my college dream a reality. 3 years later, when Nathan got into college, things were different. My parents not only paid his tuition, but dipped into their insurance funds and family savings to ensure Nathan had the best conditions. I overheard my mom telling a neighbor that Nathan needed a perfect environment to thrive, that he had the potential to be a successful entrepreneur. And me? I worked part-time at a coffee shop, standing for hours making lattes, then rushing from there to the library to tutor, just to afford tuition and textbooks. Each month, I watched my bank account dwindle while my student loans grew like a dark shadow looming over me. I'm not telling this story to complain, really. I just want you to understand that I grew up in a family where love seemed to come with conditions, and those conditions often meant I had to step aside. I learned to live with it, to stand on my own. But those wounds, the feeling of being unseen, unloved, they never truly go away. They linger, smoldering, waiting for a day to flare up. And then, that day came, in a way I never could have anticipated. It was an October afternoon, the Denver sky heavy and gray with clouds pressing down on the city. I'd just gotten off work, exhausted after a long day of debugging code in the office. My mind was still tangled with an email from my boss demanding a project be finished ahead of schedule. I was driving my beat-up car, a 2005 Honda Accord I'd bought from a coworker, along I-25, the radio playing Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses. I hummed along, trying to shake the heaviness in my chest. But then everything happened so fast, I don't remember the exact moment. All I know is that when I looked up, a truck from the next lane suddenly cut me off. I slammed on the brakes, but the road was slick from a light rain. The tires screeched, followed by a bone-jarring crash. My body lurched forward, the seatbelt digging into my chest, the windshield shattering before my eyes. My head hit something, the steering wheel or the window, I'm not sure. Then everything went black. When I came to, I was lying in a hospital bed, the sharp smell of antiseptic stinging my nose. My head throbbed like it was being hammered, and my right leg felt impossibly heavy, as if pinned under a boulder. I tried to move, but a sharp pain made me groan. A gentle voice spoke beside me. "Don't move just yet, you've only just woken up." I blinked, trying to focus. A nurse with her hair tied high was checking the IV in my arm. Her eyes were both professional and kind. I croaked, Where am I?" "University of Colorado Hospital," she replied calmly. "You were in a car accident, but you're stable now. You have a broken right leg and a mild traumatic brain injury. We're monitoring you closely." I nodded weakly, trying to process the information. But what hit me hardest wasn't the injuries to my body. It was the hollow loneliness of realizing I was lying here, alone, with no familiar face by my side. I asked, my voice hoarse, Has anyone come to see me?" The nurse hesitated, her eyes briefly tinged with sadness. "Not yet, but you were only brought in a few hours ago. Your family's probably on their way." I gave a faint smile, but deep down I knew no one was coming. My parents, Nathan, they were likely preoccupied with other priorities. I closed my eyes, trying to hold back the bitter sting rising in my chest. The days that followed blurred into a haze of painkillers, medical checks, and relentless pain. My leg was in a cast. My head ached less with time. But my heart, it felt heavier than ever. After 3 days in the hospital, when the pain had eased enough for me to hold a phone, I called my mom. I didn't know what I expected, only that I needed to hear her voice, to know I wasn't completely forgotten. "Hello, Oliver?" Her voice came through, tinged with concern. "How are you? What did the doctors say?" I recounted my condition, trying to keep my voice steady. "I was in an accident, Mom. Broken leg, head injury. I'm in the hospital. I might be here for a few weeks. Mom, can you come? I need family right now." There was a long silence on the other end, so long I thought the call had dropped. Then she sighed. "Oliver, I'm so sorry, but your dad and I are with Nathan right now. He's not doing well. He just broke up with his girlfriend. I need to be here for him. You understand, don't you?" It felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Nathan broke up with his girlfriend? Again? I could recall at least 10 girlfriends he'd broken up with, fleeting, dramatic relationships that Nathan always blew out of proportion like they were the end of the world. And here I was, lying in a hospital bed with a broken leg and a pounding head, not worth my parents' attention for even a day. "Mom," I said, my voice trembling, "I'm in the hospital. I was in an accident. I need you." "You're a grown man, Oliver," she replied, a hint of impatience in her tone. "You've always managed on your own. I promise I'll visit soon, but Nathan needs me more right now. Rest up, I'll call you later." The call ended. I stared at the phone screen, feeling like my world had just crumbled. The tears I'd held back for so long finally spilled over hot on my cheeks. I wasn't crying from physical pain. I was crying because I realized that no matter what happened, I'd always be the second choice, the third, or maybe never chosen at all. I slipped into a dazed state, half awake, half dreaming, caught between painkillers and nightmares about my family. I dreamed I was standing in our old house, watching my parents hug Nathan while I stood outside the door, unnoticed. I banged on the door, screamed, but no one heard me. I jolted awake, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. "Oliver, you okay?" A voice pulled me back to reality. It was the nurse from before, the one with the gentle eyes. She stood by my bed, holding a glass of water. "Bad dream? You don't look good." I panted, trying to steady myself. "Just a nightmare. Thanks." She smiled and handed me the glass. "I'm Monica. Drink this and tell me about it if you want." I looked at her, a bit surprised. Monica. The name felt familiar, but my foggy mind couldn't place it. I took a sip of water, the coolness waking me up. "Monica, have you worked here long?" I asked, just to start a conversation. She laughed, sitting in the chair by my bed. "About 3 years, but honestly, you look familiar. Did you go to Lincoln High School?" I blinked, caught off guard. "Yeah, I did. How'd you know?" Monica's laugh sparkled, her eyes bright. "We sat at the same table in biology junior year, remember? I was the one always forgetting my pen and borrowing yours." Memories flooded back like a wave. Monica, the quiet girl with brown hair who kept to herself in class. We weren't close, but I remembered her kindness, how she always thanked me when I lent her a pen or explained an assignment. "Oh my God, Monica," I exclaimed, my voice tinged with excitement. "It's really you. How didn't I recognize you?" "Probably the new hairstyle," she teased, touching her high ponytail. "You, though?" "Same old Oliver, just more tired." I laughed the first time in days. That laugh felt like a weight lifting, as if a bit of light had crept into the drab hospital room. From that day on, Monica became a bright spot in my dark days. She wasn't just a nurse, checking wounds, changing bandages, delivering meds. She stayed after her shifts to talk. She brought small stories, like how she nearly burned her kitchen trying to make lasagna, or how she convinced her cat not to jump on the dining table. Those simple tales helped me forget the pain, the loneliness. One evening, as Monica helped me eat the hospital's bland soup, I blurted out, "Monica, why are you so kind to me? I mean, I'm just a patient and you're busy, right?" She paused, looking at me as if weighing something. Then she sighed, setting the bowl down. "Oliver, you're not just a patient to me. I see you as someone like me. Back in high school, I always admired you. You were hardworking, patient, never boastful. I knew you didn't have an easy family. I heard you talk about Nathan a few times, remember?" I nodded, vaguely recalling venting about Nathan during lunch breaks. Monica went on, "I was the same. My family had a younger brother and my parents always favored him. I know what it's like to feel overlooked, abandoned. When I saw you here alone, I didn't want you to feel that way anymore." Her words hit like a knife, not to hurt, but to open a door I'd locked long ago. My throat tightened, my eyes stung. "Monica," I whispered, "I called my mom, begged her to come. But she said Nathan needed her more because he broke up with his girlfriend." Monica's brow furrowed, a flash of anger in her eyes. "Broke up with his girlfriend? While you're here, nearly losing your life? Oliver, that's not family, that's toxic." The word toxic rang in my head like a bell. I'd never dared to think of my family that way. To me, they were family, unfair, painful, but still family. But Monica, with her honesty and empathy, forced me to face the truth. "I don't know what to do," I admitted, my voice shaking. "I've spent my whole life trying to earn their love, but it's never enough." Monica took my hand, gently but firmly. "Oliver, you don't have to earn love. You deserve it just for being you. But first, you need to protect yourself. Set boundaries, not for revenge, but for your own peace." I looked into her eyes, seeing a sincerity I rarely encountered. For the first time, I felt seen, understood. And in that moment, I knew that though the road ahead was long, I was no longer alone. In the days that followed, Monica stayed by my side. She helped me practice walking with crutches, each step agonizing. She brought an old copy of The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho and read it aloud when I was too tired to read myself. She shared stories about her family, how she'd learned to distance herself from her parents' favoritism to build her own life. Those stories didn't just comfort me. They planted the idea of setting boundaries, a concept I'd never dared consider. But then one morning, my phone rang. It was my dad. His voice was frantic, unlike his usual calm demeanor. "Oliver, are you okay? Your mom just told me about the accident. I'm sorry we haven't been able to visit, but right now we need you. Our house. It burned to the ground. Everything's gone." I lay in the hospital bed, clutching the phone, my mind reeling. The house burned down. The house I grew up in, the one filled with memories, mostly painful. Now gone. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Dad, is everyone okay? Are you and Mom and Nathan safe?" "We're fine," he replied, his voice choked. "Nathan's okay too. But the house, it's completely gone, Oliver. Everything, furniture, keepsakes, all of it, just ashes." I closed my eyes, trying to picture the two-story house with its white picket fence, the small garden my mom used to tend so carefully. I remembered evenings sitting on the porch, staring at the starry sky, dreaming of a day when my parents would truly see me. Now it was all gone. But strangely, beneath the shock, I didn't feel the pain I thought I should. Maybe because, to me, that house had never truly felt like home. "Dad, how did it happen?" I asked, my voice hoarse. He sighed, his tone heavy with regret. "It was your mom. She forgot to turn off the stove. The other day, she was cooking some dishes for Nathan before leaving, and she forgot to turn it off. The fire started in the kitchen and spread fast. By the time the fire department arrived, it was too late. I fell silent, a weight pressing on my chest. Mom forgot to turn off the stove because she was busy comforting Nathan. Nathan, again. I wasn't surprised, but the truth still cut into me like a dull blade. I pictured her bustling in the kitchen, fretting over Nathan's mood, while I lay here alone with a cast on my leg and persistent headaches. And now, because of that carelessness, the whole family had lost everything. "I'm so sorry, Dad," I said, though I wasn't sure what I truly felt. "Where are you all now? Is there anything I can do?" He hesitated, as if choosing his words carefully. "We're staying at a motel for now. But Oliver, we've lost everything. Insurance might cover some of it, but it won't be enough. I was hoping you could help." His words hit like a blow. They didn't visit me when I nearly died, but now when they needed something, they called. I gripped the phone tightly, trying to suppress the anger rising inside me. "Dad, I'm in the hospital. I can't even walk. I don't have much money." "You've always been good at saving, Oliver," he said, his voice tinged with pleading. "Just a little to help us get through this. You're the eldest, you understand." I hung up without responding. My heart pounded, not out of concern for them, but because I realized a bitter truth. To them, I was only valuable when they needed something from me. I told Monica about the call, about the fire, about my mom's carelessness. She listened without interrupting, nodding gently. When I got to the part about my dad asking for help, she frowned. "They didn't visit you, but now they're asking for money? Oliver, don't you see how unfair that is?" "I know," I sighed, "but they're my family. I can't just abandon them." Monica tilted her head, her eyes serious. "Family doesn't mean you have to sacrifice everything, Oliver. They weren't there when you needed them most. Now you need to think about yourself first." Her words were like a breeze cutting through the fog in my mind. She was right. I'd spent my whole life sacrificing, giving in, only to be left with emptiness in my heart. But this time I wanted to do things differently. A few days after my dad's call, I was still lost in a whirlwind of thoughts. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the two-story house with its white picket fence, the place where I grew up, now reduced to ashes. I wasn't sure what I felt, regret, anger, or just emptiness. Monica came by every day bringing homemade cookies and small stories, but I knew she could see the heaviness in my eyes. "You okay, Oliver?" she asked, her voice gentle but laced with concern. I just nodded, not wanting to burden her with my troubles. Then one morning, as I was struggling to practice walking with crutches under Monica's guidance, the hospital room door swung open. My parents walked in, looking more worn than I'd ever seen them. My dad, with his disheveled gray hair and sunken eyes, looked at me as if he'd just remembered I was his son. My mom, her eyes red and puffy, rushed to my bedside and grabbed my hand. "Oliver, my dear," she said, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry. I didn't realize how bad it was. Seeing you like this, it breaks my heart." I looked at her, a lump forming in my throat. Part of me wanted to believe her concern, to hug her and say I was fine, that I was still her understanding son. But another part, the part that had been hurt for years, screamed that this wasn't the first time they'd shown remorse, only to turn back to Nathan. I just nodded, staying silent, waiting to see what they'd say next. My dad stepped forward, placing a hand on my shoulder, his eyes filled with worry. "You look better than I expected, Oliver. The doctors say you'll recover soon, right? We've been so worried, you know that, but..." He hesitated, glancing at my mom as if seeking her approval. "But we're in a lot of trouble. The fire, it took everything. The house, the furniture, the memories, gone in a matter of hours. We have nowhere to go, nothing left." I felt Monica shift beside me, leaning slightly closer, as if shielding me from what was coming. I took a deep breath, my voice hoarse. "I know, Dad, I'm sorry, but I'm in the hospital. I can't walk, and I don't have much money." My mom squeezed my hand, her eyes glistening with tears. "Oliver, You've always been the strong one in the family. You know how to manage. We just need a little help to get through this. The insurance will cover some of it, but not enough to rebuild. You can help us, can't you? Just this once." Her words cut like a knife, not because they were sharp, but because they were so familiar. How many times had I heard this? Just this once. You're the eldest, you understand? Nathan needs us more. I looked at my mom, then my dad, realizing their initial concern was just a prelude to what they really wanted. My money, my sacrifice once again. Monica, standing beside me, couldn't hold back anymore. She stepped forward, her voice calm but icy. "I'm sorry, but I have to say something. Oliver just went through a serious accident. He's got a broken leg, a head injury, and he's fighting to recover. You didn't visit when he needed you most, but now you're asking him for help? Don't you see how unfair that is?" My mom froze, turning to Monica as if she couldn't believe someone dared to speak up. "Who are you to interfere in our family matters?" she asked, her voice tinged with anger. "This is between me and my son." Monica didn't back down. She stood tall, her gaze unwavering. "I'm Oliver's friend, and I'm the one who's been here every day, taking care of him when none of his family showed up. Oliver nearly died, but you were busy comforting Nathan over a breakup. Now your house burns down and you expect him to carry the burden? That's not family, that's unfair." My dad cut in, his voice low but tense. "You don't understand. Nathan needs us. He's sensitive, not as strong as Oliver. And this fire, it was our fault, but we have no other choice. Oliver's the eldest. He has a responsibility to help the family." I felt a rush of heat to my head. Responsibility? I'd carried that responsibility my whole life, sacrificing so much only to be left with emptiness. Monica glanced at me, her eyes urging, "Don't let them do this anymore, Oliver." I knew she was right. If I didn't stop this now, I'd be trapped in this cycle of meaningless sacrifice forever. I took a deep breath, summoning every ounce of strength left in my aching body. "Dad, Mom," I said, my voice trembling but resolute, "I'm glad you're all safe after the fire, but I've heard these words too many times. I've always been the one to sacrifice, to step aside, but not this time. I'll help, but only with half the cost of rebuilding. Nathan needs to cover the other half, and I want you to write a will, ensuring the family assets are split fairly between me and Nathan. I'm tired of always being put behind him." My mom stared at me, eyes wide, as if she couldn't believe I'd said those words. "Oliver, how could you? We're family. Nathan, he doesn't have your abilities. He needs us." "No, Mom," I interrupted, my voice firmer than ever. "Nathan isn't a child anymore. He's been coddled enough. If you want my help, these are my conditions. If not, I won't do anything." My dad stood there, hands clenched as if wrestling with himself. "You've changed, Oliver," he said, his voice heavy with sadness. "You're not the understanding boy we raised anymore." I gave a faint smile, feeling like a weight had been lifted. "No, Dad. I'm still Oliver, but I've learned to love myself. I don't want to live my life just to please others." My dad fell silent. My mom shot Monica a glare, her eyes brimming with anger, but she said nothing more. Then they left, without promises or apologies. The hospital room door closed, leaving behind a heavy silence. After they were gone, I took Monica's hand. "Thank you. Without you, I don't know how I would have gotten through this." She smiled, her eyes sparkling. "You're stronger than you think, Oliver. I just helped you see it." The days following the tense confrontation with my parents felt lighter in the hospital room. Despite my body still aching, Monica continued to check on me regularly, bringing slightly burnt cookies and a smile that made me forget my lingering headaches. But deep down, the issue with my family remained an unresolved knot. I knew I'd set boundaries, but would that really change how my parents and Nathan treated me? Or was I just weaving a fragile hope? About a week later, I received a text from my dad. It was brief, emotionless, as if he were merely reporting, "Oliver, we've started rebuilding the house. Nathan agreed to cover half the cost. Thanks." I read it over and over, searching for a hint of change, an apology, or at least a question about my health. There was nothing. I set the phone down, sighing. Monica, sitting beside me, noticed the shift in my expression. "Your family again, isn't it?" she asked gently. I nodded, telling her about the text. "I didn't expect them to beg for forgiveness," I said, my voice low. "But I thought something would be different after all this." Monica tilted her head, her eyes full of empathy. "Oliver, you did the right thing by setting boundaries. But don't expect them to change overnight. They might never change. What matters is that you're no longer letting them control your emotions." She was right. I knew it. But a part of me, the boy who'd always yearned for his parents' love, still quietly hoped for the day they'd truly see me. The next day, the rebuilding of my parents' house began, though it wasn't as smooth as I'd imagined. My dad called a few times with updates. The construction team ran into issues because the house's old structure was more damaged than expected, and costs had nearly doubled from the initial quote. I listened but refused to be pulled in. "Dad, I made it clear," I said calmly. "I'm covering half. You and Mom and Nathan need to handle the rest." He was silent for a moment, then sighed. "You're tougher than you used to be, Oliver." I didn't respond. I didn't need to explain that this toughness wasn't to hurt them, but to protect myself. Nathan, as I'd predicted, wasn't happy. He sent me a long, accusatory text. "Bro, you know I don't have much money. Why are you backing me into a corner like this? You're my big brother. You're supposed to help the family." Reading it felt like seeing an old version of myself, the one who thought helping the family meant sacrificing everything. I replied simply, "Nathan, you're grown. This is both our responsibility." He didn't text back, but I heard from Dad that Nathan eventually borrowed money from a friend to cover his share. My parents, though reluctantly, began to acknowledge the imbalance in how they'd treated Nathan and me. In another call, my mom said hesitantly, "I know you're upset with us, Oliver. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted the best for both of you." I didn't argue, only replied, "I'm not angry. I just want things to be fair." She didn't say more, but I sensed she was reflecting, though perhaps not yet ready to fully admit her mistakes. The will, as I'd requested, was drafted. My dad sent me a copy via email guaranteeing an equal split of assets between Nathan and me in the future. I read it, feeling a slight relief, but I wasn't naive enough to think a document could heal the wounds in my heart. My relationship with my parents and Nathan remained strained, like a fragile thread that could snap at any moment. But this time I wasn't afraid. I'd learned to live without their approval. Finally, after nearly a month in the hospital, I was cleared to go home. On the day I left, Denver's sky was clear, the early winter breeze making me shiver. Monica stood by my side, helping me pack my things into an old canvas bag. "Ready to face the real world, big guy?" she asked, winking. "Not quite," I laughed, hobbling down the hallway on crutches. "But with you here, I think I'll manage." Monica drove me back to my small apartment in downtown Denver. Opening the door felt like stepping into a stranger's space. The apartment was the same, my cluttered desk, shelves packed with technical books, the worn sofa where I'd watch movies on weekends. But I was different. The accident, my family, and the time with Monica had changed me in ways I hadn't yet fully grasped. The first days after discharge were a struggle to return to normal life. My legs still hurt, requiring physical therapy 3 times a week. Work was on hold. My company gave me paid leave, but I knew I'd need to return soon to avoid draining my bank account. I started working remotely, coding a few hours a day, though I sometimes had to stop due to sudden headaches. Monica became an indispensable part of my life. She stopped by nearly every evening bringing food, sometimes pizza, sometimes dishes she'd cooked, like her tomato sauce pasta she proudly called a secret recipe. We'd sit on the sofa, eat, talk, or sometimes just watch an old movie in silence. Those moments, simple yet warm, made me feel like I'd finally found a place to belong. One evening, as we rewatched The Breakfast Club, Monica turned to me, her expression serious. "Oliver, have you thought about the future? I mean, after everything that's happened?" I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to answer. "I don't know. I just want to take it day by day, not worry too much about things I can't control. What about you? What do you think?" She smiled, but her eyes were thoughtful. I think about living a life I won't regret. I used to live to please my family like you, but now I want to live for myself, and I want you to do that too." Her words touched something deep inside me. I looked at her, realizing she wasn't just the person who'd helped me through dark days. She was someone I wanted by my side moving forward. I took her hand and said softly, "Monica, I can't promise you the world, but I promise to try every day to be the best version of myself, and I want to do that with you." She blushed, looking down, but I saw the radiant smile on her lips. "Deal, Oliver, but you have to promise not to complain about my lasagna anymore." Our relationship didn't rush forward. It grew from the little things, slow walks around the nearby park while I was still on crutches, her helping me reorganize my bookshelf while we debated whether Dune or The Lord of the Rings was better, nights when she fell asleep on my sofa with a book slipping to the floor. We didn't call it love, not yet, but deep down, I knew Monica had become the most important person in my life. On Monica's suggestion, I started seeing a therapist. The sessions weren't easy, talking about my family, the years of feeling abandoned, the sense of not being worthy of love. But each time I left the therapist's office, I felt lighter, as if I were slowly shedding invisible chains. Work gradually stabilized. I returned to the office after 3 months, greeted by a chocolate cake and hugs from colleagues. "You're tough, Oliver," one coworker said. I smiled, but I knew that toughness didn't come from me alone. Monica, therapy, and my decision to set boundaries with my family, all of it had kept me standing. As for my parents, they moved into a temporary rental while the house was being rebuilt. I didn't contact them often, just occasional calls to check in. My mom started asking more about my health, how I was eating, if I needed her to send food. I sensed her effort, though it was still clumsy. But I wasn't ready to fully open my heart. I needed time, and so did they. Nathan surprisingly began to change. He called me once, his voice free of resentment. "Bro, I'm looking for a side job," he said. "I don't want Mom and Dad to keep worrying." I wasn't sure what sparked the shift. Maybe the pressure of the house repairs, or Nathan finally realizing he couldn't rely on our parents forever. Whatever the reason, I saw a small glimmer of hope, not for the family, but for Nathan himself. A year later, I stood in my small apartment, the warm golden glow of hanging lights casting soft shadows on the simple walls. The space wasn't large, but tonight it was filled with laughter, the clink of wine glasses, and the savory aroma of roasted meat that Monica had meticulously prepared. I looked around, seeing familiar faces, close friends from college, colleagues from the tech company, and Monica bustling about with a radiant smile, orchestrating the evening with ease. But the most unexpected difference from my original plan was the presence of my parents and Nathan sitting in a corner, slightly awkward but trying to blend into the lively atmosphere. I had hesitated for a long time before inviting them. Part of me wanted to keep this party just for those who truly cared about me, who had been there through my darkest days. But Monica, with her wisdom and open heart, convinced me otherwise. "Oliver," she said as we were finalizing the guest list, "inviting them doesn't mean you're fully forgiving them. It just means you're strong enough to face them on your terms." As usual, she was right. So I sent the invitation, not expecting much. When my parents and Nathan confirmed they'd come, I was both surprised and filled with an indescribable nervous anticipation. The party was livelier than I'd imagined. My friends shared funny stories from our college days. My colleagues teased me about my habit of showing up early to the office with a black coffee in hand. Monica, like a skilled host, kept the atmosphere warm, ensuring everyone had food and drinks. She wore a simple green dress, her hair loosely tied, and I couldn't help but smile watching her. The woman who had changed my life in ways I never could have foreseen. My parents and Nathan sat at the dining table, chatting with a few of my friends. I noticed my mom occasionally glancing at me, her eyes carrying something different. Not the guilt or defensiveness of before, but a quiet thoughtfulness, as if she were trying to understand me for the first time. Nathan surprisingly seemed more at ease than I'd expected. He shared a story about his new job, a sales position at a startup, and for the first time I noticed he didn't mention our parents as his fallback. Halfway through the party, my dad stood, raising his wine glass, drawing everyone's attention. My heart raced, unsure of what he'd say. "I'd like to say a few words," he began, his voice slightly shaky but clear. "Today is a special day, not just because of this wonderful party, but because we get to see Oliver, our son, stronger and happier than ever." He turned to me, his eyes shining. "Oliver, your mom and I haven't always been the best parents. We've made mistakes, we've been unfair, and we've hurt you. I'm sorry, from the bottom of my heart." My mom stood beside him, holding his hand, her eyes brimming with tears. "I'm sorry too, Oliver," she said, her voice choking. "I didn't realize how unfair I'd been to you until Monica came along." She turned to Monica, offering a genuine smile. "Monica, you're a remarkable person. You didn't just care for Oliver when he needed it most, you helped us see our mistakes. You gave him strength, and because of you, we realized we needed to change. Thank you so much." The room fell silent for a moment. Monica, standing beside me, blushed, clearly unaccustomed to the spotlight. She smiled, squeezing my hand under the table. "I just did what I thought was right," she said softly, her voice full of emotion. "Oliver deserves to be loved, and I just wanted him to know that." Nathan, to my surprise, stood up too. He scratched his head, looking a bit awkward. "Bro," he said, meeting my eyes. "I know I haven't been a great brother. I got used to being coddled, and I hurt you. I'm trying to change, really. Thanks for not giving up on the family, even though you had every reason to." I looked at Nathan, then at my parents, a wave of emotions surging within me. I hadn't expected these words, this acknowledgement, or these apologies. A year ago, I thought I'd always be a shadow in my family. But now, standing here among people I cared about and those who had once hurt me, I realized I didn't need their approval to feel whole. I stood, raising my glass, trying to keep my voice steady. "Thank you all for being here today," I began, scanning the room. "A year ago, I didn't think I'd be standing here hosting a party like this or feeling as happy as I do now. I've been through a lot, the accident, the pain from my family, and days when I wondered if I was worthy of love." I looked at Monica, smiling. But then I reconnected with Monica, who showed me I didn't have to sacrifice myself to be loved. She taught me that family isn't just blood. It's the people who choose to stand by you no matter what. And she helped me learn to set boundaries, not to push people away, but to protect my own peace. I turned to my parents and Nathan. "Dad, Mom, Nathan, thank you for being here today and for your words. I don't know what the future holds, but I hope we can rebuild step by step in a fairer way. But most importantly, I want to say I've learned a big lesson this past year. My happiness doesn't depend on others changing. It depends on how I choose to live, and I choose to live with self-respect and love for myself." The room erupted in applause, a few friends cheering, bringing the energy back to life. Monica leaned over, kissing my cheek lightly, whispering, "You did great, Oliver." I held her hand, my heart feeling full. The party stretched late into the night. As guests began to leave, my parents hugged me before heading out. My mom whispered, "I'm proud of you, Oliver. I'll try to do better." My dad nodded, squeezing my shoulder. Nathan, before leaving, said quietly, "Bro, I'll keep trying." I mean it. I didn't say much, just nodded and smiled. When the door closed, the apartment fell quiet, save for Monica humming an old song while cleaning the kitchen. I stood there in the warm glow of the room, feeling my heart overflow. Tonight, I knew, was the happiest day of my life, not because of the apologies or promises, but because I finally felt I was living fully as myself. I walked over to help Monica, wiping down the dining table while she washed dishes. The soft golden light illuminated her brown hair, and I couldn't help but smile watching her. The woman who had changed my life in ways I never expected. "Tired yet?" I teased. "Running around all night, I'm worried you'll collapse before we finish these dishes." Monica turned, winking. "I'm a nurse, Oliver. I'm used to shifts way longer than this, but honestly, I didn't expect the party to go this well. What do you think?" I smiled but didn't answer right away. Instead, I stepped to the window, gazing at Denver's starry night sky. Thoughts surged in my mind like a quiet but powerful river. Tonight was the happiest day of my life. Not because of the party, not because of my parents or Nathan's words, but because I finally felt enough. For the first time, I didn't need to strive to be seen. I just needed to be me, and that was enough. I closed my eyes, letting the emotions wash over me. I was grateful for life, for bringing Monica to my side. She didn't just save me in the hospital. She saved me from myself. She taught me I didn't have to sacrifice everything to be loved, that I could set boundaries and still care. I don't know what I did to deserve her, but I'm grateful she chose to stay. I thought about the accident, the days I lay in that hospital bed, unsure if I could go on. I was grateful to God or whatever miracle let me survive. There were days I thought I wouldn't make it, but here I am, stronger than ever. Not because I'm special, but because I had Monica, my friends, and myself, the person who learned to value himself. Then I thought of my parents and Nathan, who had hurt me so deeply. I was grateful for them too, for recognizing their mistakes, even if late. My parents had been unfair, made me feel like a shadow, but tonight I saw they wanted to make amends. Nathan too. He was trying, and I was grateful for that. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm grateful we're all trying, step by step, to build a fairer relationship. Monica walked over, placing a clean plate on the rack, then wrapped her arms around my waist. "What are you daydreaming about over here?" she asked playfully. I laughed, pulling her close, resting my chin on her hair. "Just feeling grateful," I said softly. "Thank you, Monica, for making tonight special." She nestled her head against my chest, whispering, "We're a team, Oliver. Don't forget that." I stood there, holding Monica under the warm golden light, gazing at the twinkling night sky. The greatest lesson I'd learned wasn't about seeking fairness from others, but creating it myself, by setting boundaries, loving myself, and cherishing those who truly matter. Monica was my light. My family was my hope. And I finally was myself, a man who found happiness not in perfection, but in simple moments like tonight.